to Cyber Espresso Podcast, your quick shot of cybersecurity insights with industry leaders. I'm privileged to have today's guest, Kirk Hanratty, CTO and co-founder at Synercom. Kirk, it's my pleasure to host you today.
It's great to be here.
So, Kirk, I will start with this straight question. Why is the validation step so critical in the vulnerability management lifecycle, both before mitigation and after?
Well, we all know that today there's plenty of signals out there. Everybody's got plenty of things that could be wrong, but you have limited resources to address that. So it really comes down to, I think, slowing down to speed up slowing down to do the basics well, because the foundational basics are typically what gets exploited in a lot of the attacks. And if you don't know that your program is built on a solid foundation, then you can really get spiraled out of control in a hurry. So that human step beforehand helps. The part of the CTEM process helps you identify that the work you're actually working on is really real critical and actually exploitable. And then on the other hand, once you've fixed it, there's degree of fixes. Did it really fix the problem, or did it fix part of the problem? So you really understand what your controls, where they work and where you think they work through compliance and configuration, but how they actually perform in the field.
Correct. So from a blue team and the compliance perspective, how do you validate whether critical like NIST controls are truly effective against the most common attack vectors?
Well, that's where you have to get very environmental specific. So we actually work with some very, very, very large critical security platforms where we actually make sure that they can demonstrate the security control, not just a piece of paper showing I got this configuration or that configuration. We actually act as a third party and have them validate that control can actually catch the most common attacks and what it looks like in their environment. So that those controls that really matter, things that credential abuse, people get in with identities most of the time. We can really find out all those different ways that credentials can be abused and how can they detect them, prevent them, and alert on them. So companies find that very valuable for the critical controls. You obviously can't go that deep in all controls, but the ones that really matter in their environment on their platforms, which is the other thing control frameworks don't really address, is how did they implement it? What tools did they use? So it really sounds not that difficult on the surface, but as you dig in, we actually use adversary simulations specific for their environment that we run through, and then we capture the evidence through that adversary simulation. So we actually demonstrate that a control functions the way it's supposed to, or where it doesn't function, so they can be aware of that.
Perfect. So I will bring AI to the center stage now, because AI is everywhere, everybody talks, but specifically what you are doing, in your experience, how should organization balance? Like in one angle, AI is all about innovation, but still could be used for security validation. On the other hand, do you still believe we need a human oversight, or what is the balance?
Well, the balance is you have to keep sharpening the blade on both ends. Things are getting faster. There's a lot of the new twists on what the exposures are, the prompt injections, the over-privileged access, unintended tool invocation, and things like that when you're actually running autonomous agents. And that can create data leakage, obviously, and then also shadow workflows as it fires up things. So it's actually made the whole environment much more dynamic. But on the other hand, the fundamentals are still there. And so the basic controls, again, we can get better and better at tuning those agents to do that. But people are really better at edge cases. Is this really an issue? Is this exploitable? Especially when it talks about when you have to go through and look at different silos of controls and different layers of the stack. As you have to chain these together, the intuition of an experienced tester can really tell where those can be exploited and not. So it's allowing the testers to really focus on the things that matter more and hopefully keep clearing up the background noise at a quicker and quicker pace so that they can do that and figure out those edge cases and validate that, the controls are mitigated. And then the other part is the loop after. So you do a test before, a test after, but the next piece is you have to put that into your follow-up continuous monitoring too, so that as you're changing the environment, adding different things, that you don't reinduce that same vulnerability again. Yeah. So it's really a life cycle, and that's really important. If you look at any of these programs, the new buzzword is CTEM, continuous threat exposure management. But if you don't have a validation step, the whole program just becomes another, it's only as effective as the validation beforehand, the validation afterwards, and then keeping it out of your environment long term. So you really need all three of those steps. And if you don't have those, things will start to drift quickly.
Correct. I think the keyword here is like the continuous validation, especially when we combine with AI. To a certain extent, do you think it is doable? We can depend on AI's judgment to have a continuous validation process, or we need to interfere, knowing that maybe it can do the job, but we still want to interfere.
Right. Well, who knows in the future? But right now, I mean, we'll let AI do the blocking and tackling, and it'll get more and more sophisticated. But we'll keep the human in the loop and investing in that, and to do the oversight and to handle, like we talked about, all those nuances, edge cases, different pieces between different stacks that maybe aren't obvious, that you could chain exploits in a way that aren't predetermined, and then use the human in condition, but use the tools to make the human much more efficient.
Well, I am totally agree with that approach.
Yeah.
So, Kirk, I appreciate your valuable time and sharing your insights, and I look forward to maybe other occasions that we can talk on other topics.
Murat, I appreciate having me on here, and we'll all keep this battle going together. And I look forward to another visit.
Thank you very much. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.